2 weeks from today, the commissioner of the Atlantic Coast Conference, Jim Phillips, will give his State of the ACC address at ACC Football Media Days in Charlotte. It might be must-watch TV, if it is at all. I don't know, for people outside the league, just to see what Jim Phillips is going to say, knowing that Florida State and Clemson are actively suing to try to get their way out of the league. Pat Forde from Sports Illustrated, he might have some interest. Also, the Yahoo College Football Podcast, which is incredible. And we're going to talk some USA swimming, since Pat was just here with the Olympic team who was practicing over at the Cary Aquatic Center. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing well, Adam. How are you?
Doing very well. What is your level of interest in what Jim Phillips is going to say 2 weeks from today?
Oh, high level of interest, no doubt about it. It's, been a heck of a year since his last football media days. You're getting sued by the two most traditional football members. You've added 3 other members. Everything is kind of on a razor's edge, it seems like, nationally in the state of affairs. And the old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Jim Phillips is living in very interesting times. Yeah,
look, I've spent a lot of time with him. I mean, maybe not as much as even somebody like you, but I've spent enough time with him. He is a dynamite human being. I'm not sure that he signed up for all of this, but it's his job right now, and I'm not sure he's the right guy for what the ACC has had to deal with, because I think he's swimming with sharks. He doesn't appear to be that kind of a guy. I think he's trying to navigate this with an old school collegiate mentality, and I'm just not sure you can operate that way anymore.
I wouldn't disagree with a syllable of what you said. I really like Jim Phillips. I mean, he is, I think, one of the better people in college athletics as it becomes increasingly more soulless and mercenary. He's not that guy, but from a conference welfare standpoint, maybe you do need that guy. I'd still like to think that he can guide the ACC successfully, prosperously, for a long time. But yeah, when your 2 biggest football brands are openly at war with your conference and things are changing so rapidly, what is the best strategic, unemotional, bloodless sort of approach to this that you could have? And I don't know. It's a tough situation for him and for the league. And there's just no easy answers to it. And I'm not sure Florida State and Clemson even want easy answers anymore, or even hard answers. I think they've kind of made up their mind. The question remains, obviously, where are they going if they're going to go? And can they make it work? How expensive will it be to get out? And then where are they going?
Pat Forde is joining us here from Sports Illustrated, and that was my next question for both of them. And Florida State is more militant about it than Clemson. Maybe it's because Clemson's an original member of the ACC. I don't know. I think they're both probably kidding themselves if they think that the legal route is the way they're going to do it. I think they're trying to force settlements. I don't know that the ACC's got incentive to settle, because I think their legal cases, everybody I've talked to has said their legal case is rock solid. What do you see the way out for those 2 schools are, and how long does it take?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons this has been so perplexing to me, is there just doesn't seem to be that's clearly what they're going to do, obvious successful resolution to this. I don't think they can win in court. I agree with you that this may just be like, we're gonna make the relationship so bad that you're gonna throw up your hand and say, just go.
Right.
And maybe we get a discounted rate on getting out of the league. But again, there has to be a landing spot, and we'll see. I mean, if everything blows up, then the SEC may change its mind, but the SEC is not sitting there clamoring, saying, man, we really want Florida State and Clemson. Not
right.
at all. I don't think the Big Ten necessarily is either. Now, if it comes to pass that the ACC is going to break up, and then things change, and then like first of all, everybody fights over North Carolina,
right,
and perhaps Virginia as a sidekick or whoever, and then the next decision is, well, if they're going, then we will take Florida State and Clemson as we continue to further, divide up the continent here. But there's just, it's expensive, it's acrimonious, it is long term, and there just doesn't seem to be an automatic win in this for Florida State and Clemson.
Pat Forde is joining us. Final question about this, and then I want to ask you about the U.S. swim team, again, practicing over at the Cary Aquatic Center. Do you think Florida State and Clemson are out of the ACC before everything blows up and the top tier of college football and the structure might not be identical, but looks more like the Premier League or a European football system with maybe 40 schools all playing at a top level and everybody else playing below it?
Yeah, in terms of which comes first, I don't know. It seems to me that we're, I think one has to happen before the other happens, really. I mean, I think the ACC is the trigger point for the Premier League top 40 or whatever. And so I would guess they would have to go first. That again, does that trigger North Carolina and or other schools and obviously Notre Dame? But when that happens, I don't know. You can look at contracts and kind of game out. Okay, we've got a 6-year college football playoff contract. Okay, that sounds like about a time when you could break the model and try to rebuild it. The ACC, obviously they've got a bit of a milestone in February, but I don't think anybody's expecting that's going to turn into an Armageddon scenario for the ACC. But then 2027, could that be a time? I'd say 4 to 6 years. We're looking at probably that next, and I wouldn't say last radical change, but kind of the next huge one that probably does bring us closer to a 40-team, 2-league mega power.
Pat Forde is joining us here. What it does give us is Tiger Woods, ACC legend, Michelle Wie, ACC legend, Katie Ledecky, ACC legend, Pat Forde. That transitions us to the U.S. swim team. I don't even know how to compare it to past teams like with Michael Phelps or some of them. Is this as strong a team? You cover this sport better and probably more frequently than anybody. Is this as good a U.S. swim team as we've ever put out?
It's not, because we don't have Michael Phelps.
Oh, okay.
That was just he was, such a difference maker on a level that we've never seen. So the women's team is very, very good. But it also happens that Australia's got maybe the best women's swim team they've ever had, and arguably the best female swimmer in the world is from Canada. And then on the men's side, there has been a bit of a generational transition here that's still ongoing, and it's a young American men's team. And 2028 could be totally dominant men's team, but this year probably still finding itself a little bit. So, if you're sitting at home and you're just going to turn this on, you haven't paid any attention, which I don't blame anybody for that, but you're probably saying, well, we're used to seeing America win half the gold medals.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be that many. I would say somewhere between 10 and 15. If they get to 15, wow, everything went really well. If it's 10, okay, not quite as good as maybe they hoped. Somewhere in between there might be the most realistic number.
Katie Ledecky is still at the top of her game. Where is she? I don't even know what I said this earlier. I'm not even sure what age a swimmer's prime is. She's 27. Is she in it? Is she beyond it?
She's both. She's both in it and beyond it. She's unbelievable to still be, especially the events she swims, which are so hard, for her to still be, the unquestioned number one in the world in the mile and in the 800. But the world's caught up with her in the shorter ones, the 400 and the 200. And so, she was at her apex of domination in 2016.
Yeah.
And still really good. And she's still going to win gold medals in Paris. But the world has changed a little bit around her, but incredible for her. Now, 4 Olympic Games and still, going to go in there and win that mile by half a pool.
It was by a lot more than half a pool when she swam the mile. Was it the last Olympics or the Olympics before then? She was like almost 2 laps ahead of everybody else. About Katie Ledecky, but this also folds back to your roots really covering college sports. And I don't think that anybody at the NCAA, because I don't think they're smart enough, I don't even know what the right word is. They don't think this way. But I wonder if they regret all of the athletes that were in the Olympic sports that could have been Olympians but also still been college athletes. What would it have been worth to the NCAA if Michelle Wie had been allowed to play golf at Stanford? I'm sure you've thought about it. What do you think?
Yeah, isn't it amazing? I mean, truly, like the NCAA ran off some of the best, brightest people they could have had in their sports system. I mean, Kayla Ledecky swam 2 years at Stanford and then turned pro.
Right.
She could have swam 2 more years. Michael Phelps never swam at all in college. He was pro the whole time. I mean, these are people that could have absolutely popularized fringe sports. Like, oh my God, I'm going to go watch Michael Phelps in a college meet. Of course.
Yes.
You're going to watch Michelle Wie tee it up in a college invitational. And, because of being short-sighted, stubborn, archaic, the 1950s model amateurism was not going to be toppled until, of course, it was. And now we're seeing, how things could have been if they had any amount of foresight or reasonableness, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
And now we're headed for what I think is likely employee status for athletes, and who knows what happens. I think we all know schools will jettison some of the sports that don't make them money, even though they could still afford to keep them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the huge next set of decisions that have to be made. And, I mean, for your listenership, sitting in one of the hotbeds of Olympic sports from a collegiate standpoint, North Carolina State, Duke, schools that are great in a lot of sports, could they be faced with saying, you know what, we like these, we're good at them, but now we're going to get rid of these programs? I mean, it'd just be, I think, a terrible, terrible moment, but we know what pays the freight, and we know what gets priority, and it's football and it's men's basketball, and that's not going to change.
And they've all got to pay for the $20 million annual payout, not to mention the penalties they're going to have to pay. Reese Brantmeyer, by the way, North Carolina tennis player, is starting a class action lawsuit to be able to get prize money for playing in professional tennis events. She's a player at UNC, wants to be able to realize some of that. We can pay athletes directly, but they can't earn money in professional events. It doesn't make great sense to me. Pat Forde, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. At @PatForde on Twitter from Sports Illustrated. Take care, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, my pleasure, Adam. Thank you.
You got it. Pat Forde here on The Adam Gold Show.